Yeah.
Right, welcome back. So we're on to part two. I'll just sound effects. Now I'm now moving on to a fierce. I'm two tonight. It must be near the end of the week. I'm going on two tonight. Right. So I said what we'll do is the second part is we will move on to talk a little bit about the Irish pub scene, which, as we've already mentioned, it doesn't have much real ale in it or hand pumped beer anywhere, and obviously is the land of stout. And as we've previously discussed, obviously Guinness is the standout, but certainly towards the southern end of Ireland, you do come across more and more Murphy's and Beamish. Although, again, I was very, very disappointed to find out that Heineken now own both Murphy's and Beamish and brew them all in the Cork brewery. So the brewery in Cork, which again, if you're on YouTube, there's a lovely
In a
picture of it.
bathtub.
It's still a very, very nice brewery, and this is the original home of Murphy's. But they now brew everything in the same place, Murphy's and Beamish. And it's one of them really. Actually, not a lot of people in the pubs knew that. I kind of had to almost tell them that. And again, it does make you worry a little bit about how much, how much real prestige each of these brands has. They do taste a bit different. They always reckon that they're not as bitter as Guinness, Murphy's and Beamish. Probably say the Beamish.
The Beamish does a certainly more in your head, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I would probably say I kind of steered toward, certainly when I was in Cork and round there, after Beamish. And a lot of people in Cork drink Beamish. They don't drink Murphy's. They drink. They have said, you're in Cork and drink Beamish. So yeah, but interesting. But just again, a shame really that again in an island like most other places, that heritage, that brewing heritage, is being a little bit kind of pulled back. Anyway, and the one I couldn't
find. This is a good one. This is a good one, Bruce. Do you know what the Cos girls were drinking last night on stage?
No.
They both had a cup of tea.
Oh God! Yeah,
they had tea mugs. They had a white.
Might have had bloody paddy whiskey in them.
No, they were on tea because the poor lass who plays, I can't remember her name, the one who plays the keyboards and the violin. She had a little portable heater on top of her keyboard as well, where she kept warming her hands up because her hands and her fingers were that so cold. So when she warming them up on there, she had them wrapped around a tea mug, having a cup of tea.
Was it sold out?
It wasn't, but it was quite breezy on the coast, and obviously it was dry. It was a nice evening. The temperature did drop a little bit, but once again, I don't suppose they're used to playing a lot of outdoor venues. And they were a bit higher up because they're on the stage, the way that the wind was blowing. So, yeah, I was feeling sorry for them because, once again, when they get the fingers going on them fiddles and also even with the penny whistles, they have to move their fingers pretty quick. I mean, even Natalie and Beery complained that her nose was cold, which I think was an excuse for her not singing very well. But, yeah.
This is not Radio 6. This is the Malt Travel podcast. We will talk about beer now. Now one thing have you two ever come across?
No, well, exactly. We don't talk about beer. We're talking about bloody Guinness, and Bruce is always talking about lager or pies. So
right, well,
it's not a beer podcast anymore, is it?
The one I couldn't come across, and I didn't get a pint of, is Kilkenny. Now I understand that Kilkenny was a proper Irish beer. That was a proper beer, and it was brewed in Kilkenny. However, again, Diageo and Guinness bought this out, and people say it's a mix between bitter and Guinness. It's like a black and tan. It's like a half and half. And we probably shouldn't say black and tan these days, but I didn't come across any. And I guess it's a bit like what was it called? What was that green red beer called? Oh God, I've forgotten it now.
Caffrey's.
It's a bit like that. And again, you didn't see anything like that. You saw Smethwick's. And that's obviously brewed by Guinness. And there was quite a variety of that. But yeah, so you're on about prices beforehand, and it's almost kind of competition, this, isn't it now? So again, people have been showing, and it's always Temple Bar that seems to get the kind of the battering. So Temple Bar,
bloody idiot, should go in there.
A pint of Heineken, 11 euros 45 for a pint of Heineken. A pint of Guinness, 10 euros 45. Which again is, you know, pushing it a little bit, isn't it? So yeah, there's Temple Bar there. There's a bill for a pint of Heineken and a porn star martini, and two drinks cost 29.45. However, same week in Donegal, and I got told this actually in Mayo, because I thought Mayo was the cheapest county in Ireland, certainly from my experience. But apparently in Donegal, you can get a pint of Guinness for £3.86, €4.50. So apparently that's the cheapest Guinness you can get in Ireland. 3.86, you'd be struggling to get that in the UK. Wetherspoons is not much more than that, is it? But I think it's about £4 in Wetherspoons, isn't it? I think a pint of Guinness. So anyway,
cheaper than that.
So anyway, in the county of Mayo, where I began my journey, we were paying roughly around €5.40, and that was pretty much in all the pubs, which I thought was good value at £4.60. And this is my first pub, and that there is and you can just look at it, can't you? Look at it. That was my first
dome on it.
I was on driving duty as we were camper vanning it, so I had to drive from the airport. So that was my first pint of Guinness, having been in Ireland for about 6 hours. So that didn't last very long. And as you can see on the bar, there's already another 3 lined up, which again went pretty quickly. This was a cracking place. This was one of those places that it's in a beautiful part. So this is Nevin's Newfield Inn, which is halfway between Newport, which is just north of Westport, and Achill Island. So it's on Clew Bay. It's on that beautiful Bay of Islands. Croagh is in the distance. Absolutely deserted. Had anybody there? And as you can see there, if you're on YouTube, it's at the back of it are the mountains, and the front of it is the sea. Absolutely fantastic. It's 157 years, same family running this pub. They have their own taxi service because it's a little bit out of the wilds. However, like a lot of places in Ireland, it looked quiet, and then by about 8 o'clock, it was absolutely rammed. People coming in literally on tractors and God knows what else. The other thing they've got, though, is meet Bella and Bertie. They've got 2 bloody robot waiters that come whizzing around. So the front is a traditional Irish bar at the front. Then they've got quite a large restaurant kind of towards the restaurant areas at the back and on the right-hand side. And they have these 2 robots which literally bring your dinner to the table. They are quite cute. They're kind of whatever receptive AI. They stop. They say hello. They tell you that your plate's going to be warm.
Do they have Irish accents?
Yeah. No, they don't talk. They just beep, and they've got like a message board. The actual human comes and takes the food actually off the back of them and puts it on the table. But again, you know, typical in the middle of Mayo, middle of nowhere. There you go. There's 2 things there. So that was Mayo. That was our first night we had in Mayo, which was very quiet. The pub also have a camper van park only for about 5 or 6 camper vans. So that was really nice. They charged, I think it was 10, 15 euros for the night. So really nice start. The weather, unfortunately, was a bit rough. So we drove to Achill Island the morning after and got on the beach there, but it was pretty wild. And then we headed down to Galway. And I've got to say, if you want to go to a town and experience Irish pubbery, then Galway is definitely the place I would recommend. We had a cracking time. It was Saturday night, so it was pretty busy. It was probably the busiest place we came across. And a really nice mix of locals and tourists. But there are literally pubs next door to each other. And there are so many really good ones. So we began in Murphy's Bar, which is down the main high street, mainly because it was chucking it down with rain. So we just dipped in there to get out the rain. And then we split up. So the ladies went off to find the music pub. And me and Finlay, son, we went off and tried to find some of the more trad pubs. The one I really liked was one called Tag Niekten, which is the one you can see if you're on YouTube. It's really quite old place, full of books inside. It's on their kind of list to do. and that was a fantastic thing. We even managed to get Son to try a half a Guinness in there. We then went to the front door, which is one of the big rugby pubs in Galway. And actually, it's two pubs because it's also Sunny Malloy's. So you go in one door and the front door, and you turn right and you come out Sunny Malloy's. That was a bit more of a kind of a gastro kind of pubby bar, which was quite nice. The find of the evening though was Freeney's. So again, this is on the main kind of street in Galway. You probably, if you're looking on again YouTube at that top picture, you probably wouldn't know it's a pub because it's actually a fishing tackle shop. But when you go into the fishing tackle shop, it opens up into a huge pub, which they claim has got the largest whiskey collection in the whole of Ireland. They reckon you go in there and come up with a random bottle of whiskey, and they will have it somewhere. And literally, I haven't really given it justice there, but as you can see, if you go on YouTube, there's a cupboard there full of whiskies, and that continues around all the walls. They're just cupboards full of whiskey. And it was a great pub. I think I mentioned to you when I was in there, Bruce, very much kind of Sotheby's feel. So we are sat in the back room, if you like, on the picture in the middle there. 4 mica tables, looking like seeing better days. Locals sat at the bar. The guy, the little guy, we're all watching the racing, by the way, and you can see betting slips on the table there. So there was a bookie. You can see they've actually screwed up betting slips and unwritten betting slips. So there was a bookie's runner going on here. So you can put bets on in the pub. The little guy there is one. I think he is Paddy Brennan's cousin, famous Irish jump jockey from Galway. And he looks a bit like a jockey, doesn't he? And you can see that the vicar turned up as well. The local Church of Ireland vicar turned up, and he just won 50 euros on a horse, so he was quite happy, but wouldn't buy anybody a drink. Fantastic pub. A bit further down, it's got those snob screens that you often find in mentioned gin palaces. So yeah, if you're ever in Galway and you want to go in, and I've got to say, we kind of walked in, we got a kind of strange look. I had my Mayo top on. So the bald-headed guy at the bar was a Mayo bloke. So the crack began. We got absolutely ribbed, but we were giving it back. And we're an absolute cracker. When they found out Finley's got a shaving 2 racehorses, then they were all over him. So it was a cracking place. We had a couple of really good hours in there. And then we ended up in the Keys, which is, again, not far away, actually. The Keys is a massive pub, a bit, I don't know, typical kind of Irish city centre pub. It's got a little quiet bar, mainly a music bar, so there was music constantly on, like a dance floor and stuff. And we stayed there literally till midnight, so we had a great time. So yeah, Galway is definitely a place if you want to go and find pubs. Day 3, we travelled a bit further down to County Clare, and we went to Kilrush. Kilrush is a little town on the edge of the Shannon. It's quite well known because it's got the widest high street in Ireland, and it's absolutely massive. And we just went into basically 2 random pubs here. So O'Brien's was a very typical, fantastic old, Irish pub, cracking in there, lots of locals in there on a Sunday afternoon. And then we ended up in Johnson's, again, mainly because they had music in the back room. But again, it wasn't really music, it was country and western, some bloke and a guitar and a CD. But anyway, the locals quite enjoyed it. Typical in both these pubs, lots of old boys, a Guinness and a paddy, a Guinness and a shot was what they came in for. So that was quite fun. So Kilrush, yeah, that was really good. We then moved on to Kerry, so we crossed the Shannon. We drove the camper van onto the ferry, went across the Shannon, and we were actually based in Tralee, but we knew that the place to go is to Killarney. And again, if you want Ireland in a kind of 3 hours, Killarney, it was full of Americans and Japanese people, but there we go. And I'd read that Jimmy Burns is supposed to have one of the best pints of Guinness in Ireland. It's on the picture there. It was okay. It wasn't as good as that Nevin's pint. And the toilets were definitely interesting. So I quite like showing you a toilet. Literally, you pissed on the wall in this toilet. And it was just like stainless steel on the wall. And that you kind of stood where it all went. So obviously, when you had a few Guinnesses. But then the highlight of the trip to Killarney was a pub I've been in before, which is called Hussey's. And it's a bit out of town. It's right at the far end. But it's got a little snuggery. And we managed to get the only table in that snuggery. So again, if you're on the picture there, and you get served via the hatch, And again, absolutely great Irish landlady, gave us the crack, made the ladies a cups of tea. But I remember this pub because this pub was absolutely packed by locals, and it was run by one woman behind the bar. There was only ever one woman serving, but nobody ever waited for a drink. She just knew when you were ready. When you got down to kind of bottom of your pint, she'd kind of say to you, "Yeah, another one going in there," and she'd have it ready for you. So it just absolutely run like clockwork, and people at the bar would move aside so you go and get a really great pub. So yeah, if you're ever in Killarney, try and find Hussey's because it's a cracking pub. It's a little bit off the tourist track, so it's a bit quieter in the day. Jimmy Burns was great because it's a big GAA pub. So if you're into sport, they had a massive television show with the racing, and they've got a lot of the memorabilia on the walls, shirts, etc., which was really, really good. But then I think the highlight for me was getting to Dingle. Dingle obviously is a very, very popular place. We actually set off quite early to get to Dingle. Dingle has got thousands of pubs, all cracky ones, but it's got a couple of absolute gems. And the one I wanted to go to was, well, in Irish it's kind of Old Corrig. It's Old Currans. If anybody's ever watched the Irish pub documentary, it features on there. It's one of those pub shops, and the landlord is the fifth generation of Currans, who's on the film and is a cracker. He's absolutely the same in real life. He's probably in his 80s now, but he was just the life and soul. He just had us absolutely. We sat at that bar there, and the Guinness. Unfortunately, I was driving, so I only actually had a half. But if you look at that half was stunning. This is the best batty Guinness I had in Ireland. And he just told us stories. He told us about the documentary filming. There were regulars in there that we had a load of crack with. I think the best one was my bloody wife and sister-in-law were trying to get them singing. And the bloke says, I'm going to sing a song for you. I'm going to sing a song for you. It's about a lonely sheep on a mountain. Oh, great. Oh, great. Well, let me get my video. Let me get camera ready. And he went, are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Bah. And then that was it. That was his song about a lonely sheep on a mountain. And they fell for it. But he was a lovely, typical Kerry man who was very slow and told. He kept reaching up and pulling things off that shelf behind him that people had dropped, people had bring in. There was at least two ashes, two cremated bodies under the bar at the moment. He said people bring them and just we don't know what to do with them. But yeah, it was absolutely cracking. He said that a couple of guys who'd been filming Ryan's daughter, one of the ashes was with a guy. He was on the film set for that, and he just never left. He stayed that long. He just never left. So if you ever get to Dingle, this is right at the top end. You've got to walk up the big steep hill. So again, that loses quite a lot of the tourists. But you must find O'Curran's. There is another one across the road called Foxy John's, which unfortunately I didn't have time to go in, which looks the same. It's a shop pub, this kind of Irish one. Dick Max is a little bit lower down from O'Curran's. They're actually filming in there, so they won't let anybody in when we were there. We actually began in James Long, which is down on the harbour side, and that's the breakfast brews that James Long does. So again, if you fancy an Irish breakfast,
looks amazing.
It was fantastic. Yeah, really, really nice. And then the other one in there is Paddy Bourne Brosnan is another big GAA club pub, with I think even another footballer, Kerry footballer that's very good. So Dingle, great place, very touristy. Didn't see the dolphins. You couldn't really see the harbour too much on the day we were there. But yeah, O'Curran's is absolute classic. And again, I would also recommend if you've not ever watched the Irish pub, watch it. That's a great hour. And then when we went a bit further down, and then we crossed into Rebel County, the city of Cork. We actually stayed at Blarney, although we didn't kiss any stones. So we jumped again, got a great guy to run us in there. And again, it was a bit of a wet, horrible Thursday night in Cork. We began at the Corner House, which is quite a famous pub in Cork. And again, you see there I'm on the Beamish. We then split up. The ladies went to a very posh bistro pub. Me and Finley looked for the roughest pub we could find in Cork, and we ended up there at the Welcome Inn, and we had the Murphy's side on the side. And most people in there were absolutely blathered at about 8 o'clock on a Thursday night, and I'm talking absolutely pissed. Could hardly stand up. But anyway, they were fine. They let us in, and we sat down. It did help that Finley's got his Kerry top on there, so he kind of fitted in. We actually went for a really nice meal. Then we ended up in the Shelburne bar. But in between that, I'd always done a little bit of research, and I found the Irish Sam Smiths. So in Cork, again on the main kind of drag there, you've got to look up because it's called the High B Bar, which is a little bit kind of, again, there's a bit of a mix up here because it's actually it's outside. It's called the Hibernian Bar, but there is no Hibernian Bar in Galway. It shut down about 100 years ago. It's actually the High B Bar. So again, you've got to know where this place is. There is a sign outside there. It's got quite a nice posh like little street entrance, but you've got to go upstairs to it. And as you're going upstairs, you pass lots of signage saying no mobile phones, no mobile devices, no swearing, etc., etc. And you enter this very, well, Sam Smith's like interior. After I've got a few more pictures there, I've not put them on. It's a bit like the Crystal Palace Lounge. It's that kind of style, kind of all kind of settees and kind of settles and then those what's it chairs. That Nicholas always does his impression of. No, Esther. Those kind of
Cyril
chairs.
Fletcher.
Yeah, Cyril Fletcher chairs.
Cyril Fletcher chairs.
We got quite a couple of fun looks we walked in, but then after that it was fine and they got on with it. I think technically you've got to be 21 to go in there, so Finley just about got in there because he's not quite 21 yet. But anyway, they didn't check his ID. I think again his Kerry top probably helped, but definitely worth looking out for. And again, when you get in there. So, for example, you get in there, it says if you want to use the gents, you've got to press this button, which will open the gate to get into the gents.
Wow.
So it's full of little kind of subtle things like that, which are just bonkers. And again, there's very few pictures of it because they don't encourage you taking pictures. And I think when we were there the night before, I read that the landlord, the barman had to ask somebody not to use their phones or they would have to leave. And apparently the whole pub was applauded when he said that. So very interesting. So anyway, that was great. So that was Cork. Nick, you've been to Cork, haven't you?
Yeah, quite a while back. Yeah. We didn't do a lot of pubs, as I say. We just found a little one just down from the hotel that is just north of because Cork's it's on an island, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Even in the city centre, it's almost an island.
Yeah.
So we stopped at not the Gresham. I think we stopped at the Shelburne Hotel.
Shelburne's next to the theatre, so it's quite busy because the theatre, it's a massive pub. And the theatre
just north of the north little bit of a river. And there was a bar just down the road from there. But we were touring around, so we didn't actually do a lot of drinking in the city. We tended to just go out during the day.
I would say Cork's a harder city
because it's only a small spot again, really.
Yeah, Galway is very touristy. Galway is, as you'd expect, kind of full of Galway girls and people that that you hear that song almost everywhere. Cork's a bit harder. Cork's more of a it feels a bit tougher, feels a bit grimier, feels a bit more of a working city. We were trying to get to Cove, but it's further than you think. Actually, Cove, it looks quite close to the map, but the plan was we were going to jump on the train, but in the end, it wasn't great weather, so we just stuck to we walked. I've got to say, we never felt any threatening or anything like that. I mean, most they just tend to get happy and pissed, Irish people. But again, there were, as always, one or two, shall we say, non-Irish folk loitering around, looking, a little bit dodgy, especially when it got a bit dark. So, yeah, I think you'd probably need your wits about you in Cork a bit more than say somewhere like Galway. Galway felt very safe, and it was pretty busy. And then we headed back up. So our last night we had was in Castlebar, and thinking this is quite a sleepy little town. Not a lot unlike Malton, to be honest with you. It's actually the county town of Mayo, but Westport gets all the the tourists, so people tend not to go to Castlebar. But actually, do you know what? We ended up having an absolute cracking night in Castlebar. We just walked in for an hour or so, and we ended up staying out till about bloody 10:30, which is a bit of a nightmare because we were taking the camper van back next morning. So kicked off in the Irish House, which is a very interesting place, a very interesting entrance. It's on the main drag. And then just again, I heard mention that Burns is supposed to be quite a great pub, so we popped down to Mick Burns, a little pub, a bit like Dolly's in Beverley. But anyway, got in. It was quite busy, so we went towards the back there, and then that was it. We were there for most of the night because the two people at the bar there, we got chatting to. The big guy, was president of the rugby club, and we got chatting to him, and that we really into what we'd been doing, and then. After about an hour, Mick the Burn, the actual owner, turned up, and the picture on the top right hand side there is Mick. So Mick is the legendary landlord of this place, big Mayo supporter. But Mick was a character. He was all over us. He said, right, he got all his music out. He said, you tell me what you want to play, and I'm going to play your music. At one point, he came round with crackers and cheese. He'd individually done crackers and cheese with a little grape on it. I kept going to the bar and getting a drink, and he wasn't charging me any money. And then when the lad who'd been on, the bar lad, came back on after his break, I went and I said, look, Mick's not charged any money. He goes, oh, he does that quite a lot. Then he came round, he did rugby shots. So just a typical Irish, landlord. And then we ended up there and we went across to Moran's, which again had music on. And I don't know if this is going to work, but this was a fantastic trad music. I don't know. Let me just do that and see if I can get it to work, because it's worth it, because they were fantastic musicians. It's not going to work. Anyway, so that was our trip to Ireland. Could strongly recommend it. All that you heard about Irish pubs is true. That it was an absolute hoot. And we're looked after in every pub. Had drinks bought for me. Didn't have any aggro or anything like that. People just kind of got on. And I say, on average, it was about between €5 and €6 a pint, which I thought was quite reasonable, really. A bit more in Cork, a little bit more in Cork, but not stupid. I didn't pay more than €7 for a pint of Guinness all the way through it, even in like posh kind of bistro-y places. So yeah, could thoroughly recommend it. And again, if you've ever thought
fantastic.
about Ireland, go.
You went to all those pubs and started speaking to strangers and things like that.
And literally every pub we went into, we got into conversations. And I went on my own, and I got into conversations. We went in as the 3 or 4 of us went in. We'd get into conversations, and Irish people. I think it's because it is quite a small population. To be honest with you, it is quite quiet. In a lot of those towns this time of the year before the height of the thing. And they're just interested in where they've been, they're interested about travelling, where you're from. Often they've been themselves, that all their kids are often in England. The kids are often, away doing stuff. So really, really good, really, really good. So that's Ireland.
There weren't any idiots splitting the G with her.
No, absolutely not. I'm splitting the G bollocks, so they kept saying.
No, I would have liked to. If I had a pub in Ireland, I'd be sending people out. They were carrying on with that bloody ridiculous nonsense.
Madness, isn't it?
No. Anyway, our next plan is that we need to start getting ready for our trip, which is only less than a month away now, isn't it? 3 weeks, I think. So, on Independence Day, whatever Trump will call it, Trump Day, probably going to rename it. We are heading off for a northern adventure, Bruce, aren't we? So I know you keep kind of tinkering with the itinerary. So come on, give us the latest on your plan for the day or the weekend.
Well, we're heading off early in the morning to get one big leg out the way. So we're going to go to Aberdeen first. We should have 3 or 4 hours in Aberdeen. When you do the research, I kind of realise now that Green King about Belhaven have an awful lot of a huge presence, almost overbearing dominance. Lots of the old historic pubs in Aberdeen also be owned by Green King now, which is quite disappointing. And we're going to Aberdeen for 3 or 4 hours. Then we're going to pop back down to Dundee. We're going to do Dundee City sort of a tea time. I've only been to Dundee once, so that was a Thursday lunchtime. I have to say, I've never seen so many people drinking in the pub ever on a Thursday lunchtime. I saw in Dundee. So God knows what it's like on Friday tea time. They've all finished work. So once we've visited the main 2 or 3 pubs in Dundee, then we're going to stay in Broughty Ferry for the evening, which is right by the side of the estuary. Supposed to be quite lovely. Got some jolly nice pubs there. So we're early the following morning. Now, sadly, because of where the trains work, we can't get to St Andrews or Lucas. We'll have to return that, do that one next year. So we're going to head from there to Edinburgh, and obviously Edinburgh full of fantastic pubs. And for Nick, we're going to do the Kerry Pitch House. A lot of people say it's the best Wetherspoons in the country, but because it's so far at the very, very far end of Princess Street, opposite Amac, a lot of people don't seem to get in there. So we're going to visit that one. Might try and get to the Oxford Bar, shall we? Got to pop into the cafe
Yes,
hour,
Remus.
won't we?
We will Remus. Yes, Remus.
Yeah, I know that's the trouble. They think we're fans, but now we. Then from there, heading down to Newcastle and Durham, we might be able to, depending the, might be able
Not
to
going to
squeeze
Berwick.
free trade for now. Well, the free trade is because we're going to an hour. It's well worth seeing. Bizarrely, it's not in the Good Beer Guide, which is very, very weird. I cannot understand why that pub is not in the Good Beer Guide. It's got a totally unique interior.
At this point, it's be on red lemonade, I would think, by this point of the evening.
Well, yeah. So until Newcastle, where we'll obviously by Saturday tea time, things I'm sure will be livening up considerably. It is quite nice because Newcastle as the day gets on, things get louder. And the free trade, it's the free trade. The one with none of us have been to Newcastle. That looks, everybody says it's a fantastic pub. That'll be a new one for us all there. There's a couple of famous ones as well. And if we can, we might be able to squeeze into the Victorian Colpitts Hotel in Durham. So that's it, really. It should be jolly good fun. Packing loads of pubs. I have to try and work out how many pubs we'll get to visit, really. I was a bit shrewd with our time.
We're doing it over 48 hours out. We're not trying to do it holiday. We're doing it over 48 hours. So we're going up on the Friday, up to Aberdeen, then slightly back down, aren't we? And then we're going to get our Desperate Dan pies in Dundee, hopefully, and Broughty Ferry.
Yeah.
Our marmalade.
Yeah.
Then we're heading back down. Yeah, back down the East Coast. Yeah.
It should be jolly good fun. Yes. Try the 4th.
So in between that, as I mentioned, we've got the Old Malton Royal Oak Beer Festival this weekend. So we will be mainly some of us catching up there, maybe all three of us. Who knows? Nicholas is off to Madeira, where I'm not quite sure what the beer scene in Madeira is like. But no doubt you'll give us a little resume. I presume you'll get your rose of beer.
Crown or Imperial or something.
Yeah.
They reckon they've got a couple of light beers.
Is it Portuguese Madeiran? Is it Portuguese?
Yeah.
Is it Sacre?
They reckon
Sacre that's Portuguese beer.
Yeah, but they reckon they've got there's a couple of brews on the island that's not too bad. So yeah.
Very good.
Lovely, wasn't it?
So yeah, so I am assuming the next time we podcast will probably be after our Scottish adventure. So we will try and we might try and actually do, we keep saying this, don't we? But we might try and do a little bit of podcasting on the Who Say. If we really get ready, we might even go live. So keep an eye on our socials out there. And again, for our international visitors, or viewers, please do drop us a line. Tell us a little bit about what you enjoy about the podcast, but more importantly, tell us about where you are drinking. What is it like drinking in Brazil or Singapore or what was it, Lithuania? Do let us know.
Russia.
Or Russia even.
What beers do you get?
Yes. Thoughts?
Oh yeah, have you got any hand pumps? And are there any Sam Smith's pubs? So we hope you've enjoyed that. It's been we've got a lot there. I'm playing the music. We've got 5 minutes left. I don't know anything else to discuss with you, gents. I think it's.
No, I don't think that's about it. I thought the Irish trip looked fantastic. I have to say, when you get later in life, you don't really get any. I was very jealous of that trip. It looked absolutely fantastic every night. And a bit sad, really, that our pub's got the point now where you go in. And in fact, the only pub I go to now on a regular basis where people talk to each other is the Devonshire in London, which is strange. You go in there every time, which is quite telling because it does try to just a pub. It's packed with people, but the minute you sit down, people moving up to squeeze you in. Yeah. You also talk to people, which is very unusual.
I've got to say the one round us is the Bridging Ale House, which again is just a micro bar. And again, maybe it's because there's nothing else there. There's no television, there's no music. It's pretty basic. It's literally pallets that you're sitting on. They don't really, the barrels are behind the bar in like a rack in the wall. Grum's a bit of an interesting chap anyway, and his staff are all a bit, they're all a bit different. But you can sit in there, and if I probably normally go in there on my own, and I can sit in that front bar, and you'll always have a conversation with either the whole room has a conversation or tables have a conversation. So maybe there's too many other bloody things, getting in the way elsewhere. Yeah.
Well, this is right. It's quite right because obviously people don't have pubs in the phones in the pubs days ago, did they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite interesting that Wetherspoons obviously couldn't make it work in Cork, could they? They've closed in Derry now. They just never really.
Well, they've just reopened a brand new one in Dublin, which I say has got 18 hand pumps, which means it's got more hand pumps than the rest of the rest
That's
of Ireland.
astonishing, isn't it?
It's, yeah.
Is that the one down near the docks there?
I think so. Yeah, I have got the leaflet on it. I was going to share it, but I thought, I don't know. You wouldn't go to Ireland to go to Wetherspoons, I don't think. I think you're going to Ireland to go to a pub. I think, obviously in Dublin, I guess the prices. I mean, to see what their pricing is in Dublin. I think it'll be cheaper. But
I suppose as well. They also have the unique thing that if you fancy a change, because of course, in Ireland you don't get a choice of beer, so to go there, they must be quite fantastic, really.
Yeah.
To go drink some, it must be, as well as the cheapness, it's sort of unique marketing play, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I went to Belfast, the best pint of stout I had was in the Wetherspoons, and that was up at what's the little seaside town called north of Belfast?
Anger?
No.
Larne, Carrickfergus.
Carrickfergus, yeah, where a third of all Churchill tanks were produced in the war. So yeah, went in the Wetherspoons there, and as I say, I had a pint of it was an Irish stout, and I say it was better than any Guinness I had in the city. There again, it was a bit disappointing drinking in the city, but that's another story.
Yeah, so because on Monday, I'm visiting. I've got 14 American relatives visiting us. We're meeting them in London on Monday, so it'll be interesting to get their take on these historic pubs and see what the reactions like. Really, I'm quite looking forward to it. Yeah.
Very good. I can't. I'm trying to think if I've had a Guinness since I come back from Ireland. I'm trying to think. I've had one at the band room, but it was a can one, so I don't. Yeah, it definitely tastes different. They were quite secretive, actually. A couple of times I got chatting to like the bar people. They didn't really want to say very much, which is interesting. I think that's more about their own competition, around the pub or whatever. It obviously definitely is the amount they're shifting, because like you say, in those older pubs, that's all people drink. A lot of people drank Heineken. Heineken probably was the big Harp, and Heineken were the big lagers. You very rarely see people drinking Smethwick's. I did actually have a Galway Hooker. I quite like their beers. I did have one of their beers when I was in Galway, which was okay. But yeah, and like you say, as I said before, I'm sure it's that nitrogen mix. It's the way their pumps are set up.
Yeah.
And the nitrogen that dumps to get that, as you said on a couple of those pints, that creaminess, that head, you don't get very much in England.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, there were 1 or 2 pubs where it was pretty ropey. Yeah. And well, they're kind of sloshing it out, and this is good. But yeah, certainly Nevins and O'Carroll's O'Curran's in Dingle. They're probably the best 2 pints of Guinness I had, and then probably the Beamish in.
I'm gonna have to say, it's almost considered heresy to say it, but last time we were there, the worst pint we had was the Gravediggers, because the greatest pint in the world, and it was the worst pint we had.
The best, Well, I mean, how many times have we had that? We've had that in Manchester, haven't we? We've in Manchester, in London.
Yeah, with Mulligan.
Had similar,
I know.
Yeah.
That's strange, yeah.
Right, gentlemen.